Okay, welcome back. Let's get back to it. So, like I was saying, naming an identity, the name that you have, a lot of times defines your identity. Sometimes it's accurate, and other times it's not, and sometimes you change yourself in a way, or change your self concept, or connect your self concept to your name. And then affiliation when it comes to the impact of language. Affiliation is, uh, people who are attracted to others who speak like them. That's just a broad fact that people are more attracted to people who talk like them and speak like them. So if they have the same style of speaking, if they use the same language, so younger people are usually attracted to other young people because you guys have the same style of speaking most of the time, and you know the same hip terms or whatnot. I'm suddenly uncool by using the word hip, aren't I? Um, but you have the same terminology that adults don't know or don't really understand how to use. And so that connects you with that younger generation, with your own generation. But then there's convergence and divergence, which convergence is when a person or a group adapts one speech patterns to the style to match others. So a lot of times you'll see this in street gangs and military personnel, or really anything. When you're in the job world, you start picking up that certain job's lingo. So if you start working at Best Buy, and I'm using that example because I worked at Best Buy when I was in college, um, you kind of pick up more technical terms and you start using those terms in and out of the workplace. So you kind of pick up that lingo. Uh, you converge with that style and patterns of speaking. And then divergence is when a person or a group of people shape their speech because they want to set themselves apart. And this can be groups, a younger generation, or even specific groups within younger generations, kind of like cliques of people who want to be different from other people of their generation. So they speak in a different way because they want to be seen as different. And then power and politeness comes into the impact of language as well. And that's when the way you speak and how you speak signifies a certain level of power you might have or politeness you might have. So they talked about the powerless speech mannerisms. So there's hedges, hesitations, intensifiers, polite forms, tag questions, disclaimers, and rising inflections. So you'll see this on page 189 of your textbook, and it gives you actual sentence examples, and it italicizes what each of these are. For instance, hedges, I'm kind of disappointed. So kind of is italicized because that's what hedges kind of mean. So when you use these types of styles, it's kind of like a powerless. You're kind of being the less uh, dominant when you're speaking, which isn't always a bad thing. Uh, Sometimes uh, in a lot of situations, using that powerless speech doesn't actually make you powerless. It just is kind of making the person you're speaking to feel like they're in more power, or making them feel more comfortable in their role. So you'll see this a lot of powerless speech patterns when it comes to employee versus boss. And then politeness is communicating in ways that save face for both senders and receivers. Being polite. Um, so that can be when it comes to like indirect versus direct language. So instead of saying, "Excuse me, my baby is having a little trouble getting to sleep. Would you mind turning down the music just a little?" That's a polite version of the other sentence option, which is, "My baby can't sleep because your music is too loud. You need to turn it down." So while this is direct, it might not be the politest way to say that, and a lot of times, like they say, you attract uh, what is it? What they're saying? You attract more uh, flies with honey than with vinegar or something, or bees with honey than vinegar, something like that. Which is meaning a lot of times people will listen to you and respect you and your wishes more if you're polite to them, if you respect them. So then we get into the disruptive language. And the disruptive language kind of goes into how certain types of disruptive language, so these 3 types of disruptive language, can lead to miscommunication. So first there's the fact-opinion confusion, which is when you associate something that is a fact with an opinion that you hold about that fact. So a fact, as an example in the book, is you forgot my birthday. And then you associate that fact, which is a fact, they did forget your birthday, with the opinion that they don't care about you. So instead of, which might not be true and probably isn't, they probably just forgot, which is the fact, your opinion, because they forgot about your birthday, they don't care about you. So that can cause with communication confusion. And then there's the fact inference confusion, where the language or communication is confused. Confusion is caused by misunderstanding facts from what conclusions we arrive at from an interpretation of the evidence. So we might think, for example, trying to read my notes. In the book, thinking, when you didn't return my phone call, fact, I got the idea that you're mad at me. Interpretation, are you? Question. So there's the fact and interpretation that when they didn't return your phone call, you interpreted that as that they're mad at you, which can cause confusion. And sometimes, hey, I didn't return your call because I fell asleep, or hey, I didn't return your call because I was working late and by the time I got home, I didn't want to call you at 1 a.m. because that would have been rude and I didn't want to wake you. So fact and inference, which is a lot kind of like fact and opinion in a way, but opinion is more solid in the fact that it's more solid in the fact that this opinion is something that you hold for a longer time, and inference is more from things that they do rather than, I'm trying to separate this. They can't really be proven or disproven when it comes to opinion statements. For a lot of times, like, you don't care about me, you can't really prove or disprove that. When inference statements, you can sort of prove and it's really hard to explain. They're very similar, honestly, just in the fact that it starts with a fact, something that you can definitely prove, and then confusion happens when other sources or ideas in your mind get mixed up with those facts, whether from past experiences or with just personal opinions, which is when it comes to opinions. Inference a lot of times more comes with personal experience. So I inferred this because I inferred that you don't care about me, or that you're mad at me because you didn't call me back, because the last time you didn't call me back, you were mad at me. An opinion, oh, you forgot my birthday just this once and suddenly you don't care about me. Or where that can be in the back of your head, that might be opinion you always hold about that person, that they don't care about you, and this is just another thing. So yeah, you forgot my birthday, so you don't care about me, and I always kind of thought you didn't care about me, and this is just supporting my opinion of it. So I hope that little breakdown helps you separate the two a little bit more. And then emotive language. This seems to describe something, but is actually announcing the speaker's attitude towards it. So when someone is saying, Maybe someone likes deals, likes things more uh, low priced and are always looking for deals and always looking for discounts. A person who approves of these actions might call them thrifty, but a person who kind of disapproves of this action might call them cheap. So that's an example. Or someone who's, let's say, doesn't think that people should have kids before they are married. Some who don't approve of that might call that old-fashioned, and while people who approve of that might call it traditional. So the difference, motive. The words that you use kind of support what you think about certain things and certain actions. This came off of the activity that I created for you, the we language, or the you versus I language activity, which I hope you guys enjoy. I think it's a great way to work on your communication skills. I've been using these communication techniques that they come up with in the activity. So I hope that you can fix it your way and you practice it with your family and especially probably your siblings if you have them. That might cause a lot of different communications issues. Practice them because we're quarantined now, so what's a better time to work on your communication skills, right? So let's break this down. First, it's the it statements. These replace the personal pronoun I with less immediate word it. So instead of saying, it bothers me when you're late, I'm worried when you're late. So it kind of separates you by using the word it separates you from the situation and it makes it less personal. And then the but statements. That, a lot of times, even when you don't mean it, the but cancels out the thought that precedes it. I like you, but I think we need to spend more time apart. So the word after, or the sentence after but, I think we need to spend a little less time together, kind of pretty much cancels out that first thought of, I really like you, because when you kind of want to spend more time apart from someone, a lot of times it's like, yeah, I don't really like you as much as I say. Sort of. Or, I like you, but I think we should see other people. Or, you're done good work for us, but we're going to have to let you go. It's like, well, if I was doing good work for you, then why are you firing me? Cancels out the first statement for the but. And then the I and you language. So I language is going back to kind of what we are doing in that activity that I assigned, where you are so messy. That's very judgmental when you put the you in front of it. Instead of saying, you know, it really upsets me when you're not cleaning up your stuff because it gets in my way and it causes me to trip over things. So adding the I in there instead of being very judgmental with it. You are so messy, or you're so arrogant, or you're so rude. So that's part of what the activity that we're doing. And then the we language. We kind of talked about we language when we were talking about how gender affects changes between men and women, how they use different forms of we, more personal versus more broad and whatnot. So the we language implies that the issue is the concern and responsibility of both the speaker and the receiver of a message. And we are about to run out of time on this video too, so stay tuned for part 3. I'm sorry these videos are so long, but thankfully for Thursday and Friday I didn't make videos, so hopefully that makes up for it. So stay tuned.